We're here today talking with Themba Mafico about his book, Whispering Hope, Heeding the Still Small Voice. Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about your book?
Yes, I am excited about my book. It is a powerful memoir that is directed to people who are suffering from all sorts of handicaps in maneuvering or navigating their life. They find their handicaps here and there, their obstacles, and they are in poverty. And I'm basing the book on my own personal life, where I grew up in a corner of Zimbabwe when it was Rhodesia. And it was a strip of land which was arid, poor, on the border of Rhodesia and Mozambique. And there was no way I could have made it to what I ended up by becoming, the first Black professor educated at Harvard in Old Testament and Hebrew. So what I found, and this is what I documented in the book, is that there is God talking to us all the time. And the only way to understand God talking to you is by withdrawing from the noises of family, noises of friends, noises of acquaintances, and even noises of the church itself. And being a secluded place on a one-on-one with God, and pouring your desires and questions and wishes to God. And God does not answer in a loud voice, but he answers in a small, still voice. And to hear it, you must be attentive, because that still, small voice brings in a whisper of hope. And that hope generates in you energy. It fills you with the faith. It fills you with the hope. And you find that this too shall pass, and I can do it with God. And that is what the book is describing, how I was elevated from the dust to the halls of Harvard University and went back to Zimbabwe, now as a formidable professor of Old Testament. That is what the book is doing. Anybody can do it, as long as they can find a place to listen to God's small, still voice.
That's such an impressive story. I think when I think back, that's one of my favorite stories from the Bible is God coming in the whisper, and you tying that into your own story and talking about growing up in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, becoming educated in Harvard. And man, thank you so much for sharing part of that with us. Is there a moment in time where you thought, I should write about and share my story, or was it more of a process, a years-long process? Talk us through the inspiration behind writing this book and sharing your story.
When I was professor of Old Testament in Zimbabwe, I did so many things. I also did development projects to help people in the rural areas have wells, know how to raise chickens, cattle, and so forth. So weekends, I was doing that. At the university, I was the senior university chaplain. So on Sunday, I did all the work which I had to do as senior chaplain. During the week, I'm lecturing to large number of students. And then I created another school where I was principal, and that was to help the demobilized soldiers who were walking around with no jobs. And when that school opened, they filled it up in no time. So I was a busy person, and I had a nice home. I was enjoying my life. Suddenly, God said, leave all this and go to some poor school in Atlanta, known as the Interdenominational Theological School. And that is where I would like you to go and minister. I didn't like it. I had a problem with God for doing so, but the push was so high that in the end I said I will go there for 4 years. On arrival, my wife became so ill after just 6 months at ITC, so ill, and I had no one I knew. And in America, the culture is different from home, where you can call an aunt to come and help out, or call a mom or somebody. I was alone faced with a sick woman, and having been taken from home where I was happier. So I was angry. So what I did was to put a chair before my bed. And I said, God, sit down. You are no more God to me today. You are my Father. You have to explain something. Let's talk. And then I poured my whole heart to God. And I felt peace at the end. And in the end, it seemed like God was saying, everything will be all right. That sitting before God and God before me in an empty chair reminded me of so many things. Moses had to go to the mountain of the Lord after he was sick of the people he was called to lead. Elijah had to go to the mountain after he was sick of being chased by Jezebel, after he had achieved a great job of killing so many prophets of Baal. And I also noted Jesus also left the sick and the disciples and went to the mountain, to the hills to pray. So I found that the way to understand God is always to find a place where you can be all alone and talk to God any way you want. You can shout at God. He's big enough to take all those shouts. You can say any word. You can call him anything. God has so much self-esteem that he doesn't care about what word you are saying. In the end, as he did to Job, he will come and appear to you and say, Themba, who do you really think you are to ask me all those questions? Look at just common sense things and work out your problem. And when Job felt that voice, he apologized to God for everything he had said. Because before, he said he was speaking by what he was hearing, like us listening to the preacher and thinking we've heard the word of God. But he says, now I see you face to face. And that is what my book is saying. So I was inspired by the Bible. I was inspired by my own experiences. And I say there are many people, based on the students I've taught, from Zimbabwe and now Atlanta, pastors who are pastoring and experiencing many difficulties. I said maybe this book could be a blueprint for them to resolve their own issues with God. Because since I resolved mine, I feel God present in my life all the time. I don't care what they preach, all the mistakes they may say about God. The God I worship is the God I discovered in my closet when I sat down and said, God, let's talk. We are talking, and the talking is endless.
That's great. I love that image. I love that image of pulling up the chair and sitting down and talking with God, our Father. Well, Themba, anything else before we end our time together you want to share with our audience about yourself or about your book?
I would really urge the readers to read this book and to be critical and to see where it fits their circumstances and to see what they can do with the many suggestions which are there. Because my life, I always say, I have lived so many lives. I'm now in my 80s, so I've gone through so many things. As a young person, as a middle-aged person, now as a senior and most senior. So I've seen so many things. And my book is trying to summarize how a person can always overcome all the difficulties they face if they consult God and if they listen to the small, still voice whispering sounds of hope. Once a person has hope and maintains hope, they develop determination, they develop perseverance, they really say this thing also will pass and nothing can stop them. So I urge the readers to also look at our website, www.maficoinstitute.com. There will be a lot of summaries of the book there, a lot of podcasts, and a lot of messages to encourage people to feel that it was worthwhile to have lived in this glorious world, which is always spoiled by wars and by all the evil things which humans do to humans. There is hope and there is God.
You can also grab a copy of Themba's book, Whispering Hope, Heeding the Still Small Voice. It's available online. He mentioned his website. We'll put that in the captions as well. But it's available online through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble. You can even get it if you like to read an ebook. It's available on the Books app through iTunes. Thank you so much, Themba, for joining us today, for sharing and just encouraging us and challenging us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your interview.
Have a great day.
You too.